This is a car I did not expect to enjoy as much as I do. I've never been that big of a fan of the Audi TT. It just doesn't move me the way that some of their other cars do. This version of the Audi TT, though, is fantastic. I drove the base version before I drove this, the non-S version, and I was blown away by how much fun that car is. It just feels really great on the road, and it likes to be driven at speed. So I was excited to experience the S version. More power, more sportiness, adaptive suspension, bigger tires, wheels, and brakes. So it should add up to a package that is even more compelling. And you know what? It mother effing does. This is a car that loves being driven quickly. You feel so confident behind the wheel of this thing when you're pushing it down your favorite road. It seems to want more and more, much in the same way actually that a Nissan GT-R wants you to push it harder and harder. Obviously it's not as insane. Under the hood is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that makes 292 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. It's paired with a 6-speed automatic gearbox, paddle shiftable, regular mode, sport mode, manual mode. You know the gist. It's an Audi. You know what's going on here. It sends the power out to all 4 wheels because it's an Audi, which means it has quattro all-wheel drive. I would love to see these cars be a little bit more rear-wheel biased in their all-wheel drive, but the understeer is balanced out pretty good for an Audi product. These are usually nose-heavy cars that plow a bit in turns. If you're really pushing, you'll find that characteristic is still there, but you have to push really hard, and it's not a ton of understeer. It's a really good balance to keep your confidence high and you pushing harder and harder through the turns. Now, there isn't that much feel in the steering though. This is an electrically boosted power steering system, which pretty soon I'm gonna have to stop saying because they'll all be that way, unfortunately. So there's not a ton of feel here, but there is a great amount of grip. This TTS does get back to one of my gripes with Audis that I thought we could have done away with once I experienced the new S6 and the new S7. There's not a great noise to be had here. If you really just mat the throttle on the gear shift, it'll be like, bop. And that's cool for a second, but that's about it. I don't know, I didn't look. Maybe there's an optional sport exhaust system for this car. I hope there is, because it really had the S6 and the S7 come alive. Since this is a modern Audi product, you can expect that you're gonna really enjoy the cabin space. More so now that they've gotten rid of any center screen business going on. A lot of automakers seem to be tacking theirs on. Audi's just said, fuck it. We're putting it all in the gauge cluster. This has that new next generation gauge cluster where you can see your nav, your backup camera, your speedometer. You can see as much as you want or as little as you want, and you can configure it to the way that makes you happy. If you really need to see the nav, you can make almost the whole screen the nav. If you really just want to see what track you're listening to, you can make the whole thing your audio setup, but that seems like a waste of the screen. It's hard to compare the TTS to other vehicles out on the market. It's kind of in a segment of its own, really. It's uniquely designed coupe / hatchback with all-wheel drive, turbocharged fun. It's got adaptive damp suspension, Audi's version of magnetic ride. It's got neat tech features. It's priced reasonably well for what it is. The base cars run in the round low 50s. This car, as tested, is $57,000. So, I mean, it's a luxury car still, so you got to pay luxury prices, but it's on the better side of $60,000. I mean, at the end of the day, what you're getting is a fancier two-door Audi S3. Now, I like the practicality of the Audi S3. I really like the practicality of the Golf R. Were it my money and no one is cross-shopping these cars, I'd get the Golf R. I'd even get the S3 before I got this, just because I need room for a baby seat. But there are latch supports back there, and I have been driving my young child in this car. If it's got room for a baby seat in the back, I'm gonna put her back there. This really is a great, cozy canyon car. Big sweeping turns are where it shines, but if you really get into some tighter stuff, the steering's quick enough to get you through it. Like I said, you won't have much feel, but there's plenty of grip. The car changes direction quickly enough. I have no idea what it weighs. I'll pop it up on the screen right here. And then I'll either go, whoa, that's pretty good for what it weighs, or like, oh, that's less than I thought. So we'll see what happens when the number appears. I would never get the car in this color were it my car. I mean, it's fun. Maybe they borrowed it from the Lamborghini shades of automobiles, or like some old school Audi S4 colors. It's called Vegas yellow. It's not my cup of tea. Audis are usually a lot more subtle, minus the R8, but even that, as far as supercars go, is probably the most subtle supercar. So this is a brash color. Doesn't have the noise to back it up, but it definitely has an enjoyable driving experience. This is a surprisingly fun machine. That's the takeaway here. This car is a blast. The updated styling looks smart. You can still tell it's a TT. It's just been freshened up a bit. You've got a little bit more aggressive fascia. You've got those great daytime running lights. You've got a car that works and works well. There's no complaints here. One of these days, if Hooniverse ever goes big, we're gonna organize a pseudo hill climb on this road, shut it down, do it right, invite everybody out to the Hooniverse Highway Hooning Ground Hill Climb.